All right, so I don't even know where to start with this mess, but I need to get it off my chest. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar, or maybe I just need to hear I'm not crazy. So I'm Bruce, 38, been married to Bridget for 10 years. From the outside, everything looks fine. Nice house, decent job, all that. But, man, let me tell you, I've been feeling stuck for a while now. Like, life isn't what I thought it'd be. And Bridget? She's got this way of making me feel like nothing I do is ever good enough. Every conversation turns into a complaint. If I get a promotion, it's finally you pulled your weight. If I fix something around the house, it's took you long enough. Never a thank you. Never a I appreciate you. Just this constant weight on my chest like I can't breathe. And that's when Carrie came along. Now, I know what you're thinking. I was wrong. And yeah, maybe I was. But Carrie made me feel alive again. She laughed at my jokes. She looked at me like I mattered. We'd meet up at hotels, talk for hours, and suddenly, I wasn't just some washed-up husband who couldn't do anything right. I was me again. That night, I was supposed to meet Carrie at our usual spot. I told Bridget I had to work late, not that she cared. I got to the parking garage, ready to head out. When it happened, a shadow moved behind me. Before I could even turn around, I felt a hand grab my shoulder, and then, bam, I was shoved against my car. My breath caught in my throat as I turned to see this guy. Tall, broad, dressed sharp, but with this mobster vibe. The kind of guy who doesn't need to raise his voice to be terrifying. "Going somewhere, Bruce?" he said, his voice calm. Too calm. My stomach dropped. "Who the hell are you?" I stammered. He smiled. "I know all about Carrie." My blood ran cold. He took a slow step closer, his presence swallowing the space between us. "I know where you work. I know your wife's name. Your little side piece? Carrie? I know all about her, too." My hands went clammy. My heart pounded. How? How did this guy know everything? I swallowed hard. "Listen, man, I don't know what you think." "Save it." His voice sharpened. "You think you're some hotshot? Playing house with Bridget while sneaking off with Carrie? Does that make you feel like a man?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. And then he leaned in real close until I could smell his cologne. Clean, sharp, expensive. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Bridget's been lying to you, Bruce." And just like that, my world flipped. "What?" My voice barely came out. He chuckled. "Oh, you thought you were the only one playing games? Poor, dumb Bruce." He patted my cheek like I was some pathetic kid. "You've got bigger problems than Carrie." I stood frozen as he turned on his heel and walked off, leaving me there breathless, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. What did he mean? What was Bridget hiding? And who was this guy? I had a feeling I was about to find out. And I wasn't going to like it that I stood there in that cold parking garage, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The guy, whoever he was, had walked away like he hadn't just dropped a bomb on my life. My hands were shaking as I fumbled for my car keys. I wasn't even thinking about Carrie anymore. "Bridget's been lying to you, Bruce." What the hell did that mean? Was he just messing with me? Try to get in my head? I got into my car and sat there for a moment, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My first instinct was to call Carrie, but then I stopped myself. No, that wasn't the move. If this guy really knew everything, then calling her might make things worse. So, instead, I drove home. When I walked through the door, Bridget was on the couch, scrolling on her phone like she always did. She didn't even look up. "You're home early," she said, tapping away at the screen. Something about the way she said it, so casual, like she wasn't even remotely surprised, sent a chill down my spine. I watched her for a second. She was wearing that silk robe she always changed into after a shower. Hair damp, legs tucked under her, totally relaxed. "How was work?" she asked, still not looking up. I hesitated. This was a moment. I could lay it all out. Tell her about the guy, the threat, the weird way he talked about her. But something stopped me. Call it gut instinct. But suddenly, I didn't trust her. "It was fine," I said instead, forcing my voice to sound normal. She hummed in response, scrolling some more. And then, As I stepped further into the room, I saw it. Her phone screen. The reflection in the glass coffee table. A text conversation. A name. Jason. My heart damn near stopped. I don't know why, but I acted fast. Maybe it was because I felt guilty about Carrie and needed to justify my own actions. Maybe it was because my gut had never liked how Bridget had been acting lately. Maybe it was the way that mystery guy had gotten in my head. I sat down next to her, making sure she didn't see me watching the screen. She clicked out a chat when she noticed me sitting closer. That was enough confirmation. I forced a smile. Who were you texting? She blinked, then stretched her arms over her head, acting way too casual. Oh, just a friend from work. A friend. Bridget didn't have guy friend from work. At least, none she'd ever talked about before. I felt my stomach churn, but I nodded like I believed her. Cool. Silence. Then I leaned in and kissed her cheek, watching her reaction closely. She flinched. Just barely. I pulled back, heart hammering. That's when I knew. Bridget was hiding something, and I was about to find out exactly what it was. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that guy in the parking garage. His smirk. His words. Bridget's been lying to you, Bruce. And then Jason. That damn name flashing on her screen. I told myself I needed proof before jumping to conclusions. Maybe it really was just a coworker. Maybe I was being paranoid. After all, I was the one sneaking around with Carrie. But my gut told me otherwise. So the next morning, I played it cool. Got up, got dressed, kissed Bridget on the forehead like nothing was wrong. She was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone again. I've got a long day at work, I said, grabbing my keys. Might be late. She barely looked up. Okay. That was weird. Bridget wasn't a clingy type, but she usually asked at least something. What time I'd be home. If I'd eaten whatever. This was indifferent. Like I didn't even exist. I walked out the door, got in my car, and drove down the street. Then I parked at the gas station, waited 5 minutes, and doubled back. Something told me I needed to see what she was up to. And damn, was I right. 15 minutes later, I saw her walk out the front door. Dressed way too nice for a lazy Saturday at home. Tight jeans. A top I hadn't seen before. Makeup on. She wasn't going grocery shopping. That's for sure. She got in her car and drove off. I followed. My hands were gripping the wheel. So hard, I thought I'd snap it in half. My heart pounded as I tailed her, staying just far enough back. Maybe she was going to brunch with friends. Maybe this was all in my head. Then she pulled into a coffee shop parking lot, and my stomach dropped because waiting for her was Jason. Tall, fit, clean-cut, dressed like one of those business guys who pretend they're not trying too hard. He grinned when he saw her, and she lit up, smiling in a way she never smiled at me anymore. I sat there, gripping the wheel, watching my wife wrap her arms around another man. A hug. Too long. Too familiar. She pulled back, laughing at something he said, then playfully hit his arm. And just like that, I knew Bridget was cheating on me. And I wasn't going to let it slide that I sat there in my car, hands shaking on the wheel, watching my wife giggle and touch some guy like a damn high school crush. My stomach twisted, but my mind was running a mile a minute. I could storm in there, 'cause a scene, call her out in front of everyone. But no, Bridget was a liar. And liars? They get real good at talking their way out of things when they're cornered. I needed more. So I stayed put, watching from a distance. Bridget and Jason grabbed their coffees and found a table in the corner. She leaned in close, hanging on his every word, touching his hand when she laughed. My jaw clenched. I thought about all the times I'd sat across from her just like that, trying to get her to laugh. To look at me that way. How long had this been going on? I pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures. Proof. If she tried to gaslight me later, I'd have it right in her face. After about 45 minutes, they got up. Bridget looked around, paranoid, like she thought she might get caught. If that wasn't a sign, I didn't know what was. Then they walked out together. And when they got to his car, Bridget turned her head, checked again that no one was watching, and kissed him. Not a peck. Not some friendly little goodbye. Full-on lips pressed together, body leaning in, fingers brushing the back of his neck. I gripped the wheel so hard I thought I cracked the leather. My face was hot, my vision blurred for a second. That was it. I threw my car in drive, ready to pull up and... No, I stopped myself. I couldn't let emotions take over. Not yet, because I realized something in that moment. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake or some stupid drunken slip-up she'd cry and apologize for. This was planned. This was routine. And that meant I had time to play my cards right. So instead of confronting them, I drove off, and I started planning. Because if Bridget thought she was going to lie, cheat, and walk away clean, she had another thing coming. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, playing that kiss over and over in my head. Every time I pictured Bridget with Jason, my hands clenched into fists. I couldn't believe it. My wife was sneaking around behind my back. The crazy part? I wasn't even hurt. Not in the way I should have been. I was angry, but mostly, I wanted to win. Bridget had been treating me like an afterthought for months, maybe years, acting like she was better than me, like I was just some idiot who'd never catch on. Well, guess what? I did catch on, and now I was going to flip the script, so I started digging. That night, I acted normal. I walked in, kissed her on the cheek, asked about her day. She barely looked up from her phone. Same old, she muttered. She didn't even blink. No guilt, no shame. I wanted to laugh. She really thought she had this whole thing under control. After dinner, I waited for her to go take her shower. Then I grabbed her phone. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's crossing a line. And yeah, maybe it is. But let's be real. Bridget had already crossed way worse lines. Besides, I wasn't stupid. I knew she'd delete her texts with Jason. But what people forget is that there's always a trail. I went straight to her call logs. And there it was. Jason called almost every day for the past 2 months. Long calls, too. Some over an hour. I kept scrolling. Then I checked her calendar app. There were little marks on certain days. Days that matched the calls. I opened one. Gym time. Gym time, my ass. She was scheduling her affair. I took quick screenshots and sent them to myself. Then I put her phone back exactly how it was. By the time she came back in the shower, I was sitting on the couch, acting like nothing happened. She plopped down next to me, drying her hair with a towel. "You good?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah," I said, "better than ever." Because now I had everything I needed. I woke up the next morning with a plan. If Bridget thought she was running the show, she had no idea who she was messing with. See, most guys in my situation would lose their minds. Yo, throw things, demand answers. But that's exactly what cheaters expect. They expect rage, drama, a big messy fight where they can twist things, play the victim, and make you doubt what you already know. Nope, not me. I was going to play along. So that morning, I kissed Bridget on the forehead before heading to work. Just like always, she smiled half distracted, scrolling her phone, probably texting him. It almost made me laugh. When I got to work, I didn't go inside. Instead, I parked a few blocks away and pulled up Carrie's number. Yeah, Carrie. I hadn't talked to her since that night at the parking garage, but I knew she'd want to hear this. She picked up on the second ring. "Bruce." "Hey," I said, keeping my voice cool. "We need to talk. Can you meet me?" There was a pause. Then, where? I gave her an address. Somewhere quiet, out of the way. She agreed. 30 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other at a little diner. She looked good, but I wasn't here for that. "What's going on?" she asked, eyes searching mine. I took a deep breath. "Bridget's cheating on me." Carrie blinked, stunned. "What?" I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots, and slid it across the table. "She's been seeing a guy named Jason. I followed her yesterday. Saw them together. She kissed him." Carrie's face darkened as she scrolled through the proof. Then she looked up at me. "Bruce, she hesitated. I don't know what to say. I leaned back. Here's where you come in. She frowned. What do you mean? I smirked. I wanted to think everything is normal. Let her keep sneaking around, thinking she's getting away with it. I paused. Meanwhile, I set the stage for the perfect moment to expose her. Carrie exhaled. You want revenge? Damn right I do. She stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. I grinned. Good. Now, all that was left was to wait. Bridget had no idea her little game was about to blow up in her face, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. For the next few days, I played the part of the clueless husband. I kissed Bridget goodbye in the mornings, asked about her day, even brought home her favorite takeout one night. She smiled, acted sweet, hell, even started being nicer to me. Guilt? Maybe. Or maybe she was just getting comfortable, thinking she had me completely fooled. Meanwhile, I kept gathering proof. Carrie helped, too. She still had some old connections in town, and one of her friends, who happened to work at the same office as Jason, confirmed something big. Jason wasn't just some random guy. He was Bridget's ex. Yeah, let that sink in. Not only had she been sneaking around behind my back, but she had gone back to him. The guy she swore was just a stupid mistake from her past. The guy she claimed she'd never talk to again. At that point, my anger turned ice cold. This wasn't just cheating. This was a calculated decision. She'd planned this. Lied to my face every single day. And worst of all, she didn't even respect me enough to cover her tracks properly. She thought I was an idiot. That's when I knew I couldn't just confront her. No, I needed to humiliate her. And lucky for me, the perfect opportunity was coming up. Our anniversary. Bridget had been hinting about wanting to go out for dinner. Something special. Fine. We'd do something special, all right. I made the reservations myself. A nice restaurant. Somewhere fancy. The kind of place where everyone was watching. And while Bridget thought it was going to be a romantic night, I was going to make sure it was one she'd never forget. The night had finally arrived. Our 10-year anniversary. The perfect occasion for Bridget's entire world to come crashing down. I made sure everything was perfect. Dressed sharp. Played the loving husband all day. Even surprised her with flowers before dinner. She beamed at me like she had no care in the world. You're being so sweet today, she said, kissing my cheek. I smiled back. You deserve it. Oh, she deserved something, all right. We arrived at the restaurant, a high-end spot downtown. Dim lighting, soft music, white tablecloths. The kind of place where everyone around you listens in on conversations just for the drama. Exactly what I wanted. We sat down, ordered wine, and for the first 30 minutes, I let her think everything was normal. She'd talk about work, her plans for the weekend, even mention how lucky she was to have a husband who still cared after all these years. I almost laughed. Then it was time. I set my phone on the table, screen facing up, and opened my messages. Bridget barely glanced at it until she saw the name, Jason. Her whole body went stiff. I casually took a sip of my wine, pretending not to notice. Then I tapped the screen, opening the text conversation. There, in full display, were screenshots. Every single text. Her secret meetups. Her lies. And, of course, the pictures. Her holding his hand. Her kissing him. Bridget's face turned pale. I leaned forward, keeping my voice calm. So, how long were you planning to keep this up? She blinked. W what? I tilted my head. Your little affair. The sneaking around. The gym time. I smirked. How long, Bridget? She swallowed hard, glanced around like a trapped animal. The restaurant was silent. People were listening. Bruce, I don't. I cut her off. Don't even try. I tapped the phone. I know everything. Her lip trembled. I can explain. I laughed. Actually laughed. Explain what? That you've been lying to my face? That you're cheating on me with your ex? Whispers. People turning to look. Bridget's eyes darted around, panicked. Can we not do this here? She hissed. Oh, now you care about how this looks? I scoffed. That's funny, because you didn't seem to care when you were sneaking around like a damn teenager. Tears welled up in her eyes. Bruce, please. I held up a hand. Save it. Then I did what I'd been waiting to do. I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. She frowned, confused, and opened it. Inside, divorce papers. Already signed. Bridget gasped. Bruce. I already talked to a lawyer. I kept my voice steady. You'll be hearing from him soon. She just stared at me, mouth open, tears rolling down her cheeks. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and looked her dead in the eyes. Enjoy the rest of your night, Bridget. Then I walked out, leaving her sitting there, humiliated, completely exposed. And damn, did it feel good. The days leading up to our anniversary were almost too easy. Bridget kept playing the role of the perfect wife, sweet, affectionate. Even started cooking dinner instead of ordering takeout every night. Probably her way of making up for sneaking off with Jason. I played my part, too. Loving husband. Oblivious fool. Inside, I was counting down the hours. The night before our anniversary, she was texting on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I casually walked past, caught the name Jason on her screen, and had to physically stop myself from laughing. She really thought she was getting away with this. The next morning, I woke up early and gave her the sweetest smile. Happy anniversary, babe. She turned, all fake surprise. You remembered? I kissed her forehead. Of course. Big plans tonight. I made reservations at that fancy place you love. Her eyes lit up like she wasn't literally cheating on me. Really? Yeah. I grabbed my phone. Oh, and I was thinking, I pretended to hesitate, like I was about to suggest something risky. Let's invite some friends. Make it a night to remember. She paused for a second. That's all it took. That brief flash of panic. Then she smiled again, covering it up. That sounds great. Oh, I knew she hated that idea. Because inviting friends meant she couldn't sneak off to see Jason later. It meant more eyes on her, more questions, less control. But she had no choice but to go along with it. I texted a small group, Carrie included, obviously, and a few other friends who would love to witness what was about to go down. Bridget had no idea she was walking straight into a trap, and by the time dinner was over, she would have a way out. That night, Bridget got all dressed up like she was the happiest wife in the world. Hair done, nails perfect, wearing a dress I bought for her last year. She twirled in front of the mirror. How do I look? I smiled, playing my role to perfection. Beautiful. Inside, I was counting down the minutes. When we got to the restaurant, our friends were already there. Carrie, of course, plus a few others who had no idea what was coming. I had picked a table right in the middle of the place, where everyone could see us. Bridget sat next to me, laughing, acting like the devoted wife. She had no clue I was about to drop the hammer. The first course arrived, and I decided it was time. I cleared my throat. Guys, I wanted to make a toast tonight. Bridget perked up, raising her glass. Oh! I stood up, smiling down at her. To my amazing wife. She beamed. To the love of my life. The woman who stood by me for 10 years. She placed a hand over her heart, eating it up. To the woman who, despite everything, still finds time to sneak off and cheat on me with her ex. The table went silent. Bridget froze, smile dropping so fast you'd think someone yanked off her face. W what? I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and boom, there it was. The pictures. Bridget in the coffee shop with Jason. Bridget kissing Jason. Bridget's call logs, the texts, the calendar entries. I slid the phone across the table. You left quite a trail, babe. She just stared, her face turning white. Carrie leaned back, arms crossed, grinning. Wow, Bridget. A gym appointment? Really? Bridget's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Bruce, I can explain. I laughed. A real deep laugh. Oh, I'd love to hear this one. She looked around, realizing people were staring. Some diners were literally whispering to each other, watching the drama unfold. Bridget swallowed hard, shaking her head. It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like? I cut her off. You kissed him, Bridget. I pointed to the screen. You met him behind my back for months. What part of that am I supposed to misunderstand? She turned to our friends. Guys, you know me. I would never. Save it, Carrie said flatly. We all see the proof. Just own it. Bridget panicked. Bruce, please. Let's talk about this privately. I tilted my head. Oh, you mean like how you privately met up with Jason? She winced. I pushed back my chair, grabbed my wallet, and tossed some cash on the table. Dinner's on me. I turned to our friends. Enjoy the meal. Then I looked back at Bridget, shaking my head. Pack your stuff when you get home. Her eyes filled with tears. Bruce, please. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I turned, and I walked out, because for the first time in months, I was done